Okay, looks like we are getting back on board. Let's just share this so that some people start joining. Streaming is on. Sweet. So that is posted. Let's go to the view page. Let's see who is in the chat this time. Share this. Oh, just mute myself. Is there anybody out there? Hello. Come on, peeps. Oh shit, I did that the wrong way. Let's go. Yeah, there we go. I had to stop my PewDie video, so I hope it's worth it. Well, I don't know, man. I'm not sure I can compete with the PewDiePie. Hey, Anton, I see you, bro. All right, I'm gonna get some good pop out chat. Let's get that going. Let's get that smashed into there. All right, I'm good. So, do we have some people joining? People looking at my face, wondering why I'm looking so far. I have like 3 screens, and one of them is very large, and they're quite far away. So that's why I may appear to be looking all over the place, but there is some method. So we have 4 people. Keep joining, my dudes. Just gonna spend a little time. Oh, 5 people. Oh, okay. I think I'll see if one more person joins, and then we will get started. Oh, any of you guys who aren't in the Discord, by the way, should join. There's some interesting discussions going on there. Apparently it's Duck Appreciation Day. Alright, so 6 people. So, hi guys, for anyone wondering who I am Hanuman. If you've watched the previous 2 streams, I'm the person behind the voice. I began this this series actually just to talk to all the other creators who I thought really needed a voice. Make a split screen with 2 of you. What? But yeah, my journey through Line Rider. Oh god. So I was aware of Line Rider. The first track I ever saw, which was how I was introduced to Line Rider, was Jagged Peak Adventure by Unconed, which someone showed me on their phone. And once I worked out what Line Rider was, as in I was in a Discord call with myself. Oh god, no. That just sounds like some super egotistical crap, to be honest. I could never do that, my dude. So, yeah, where was I? Yeah, someone showed me Jagged Peak Adventure by Unconed, and I was like, that's some cool shit. And I spent nearly all my high school breaks and quite a lot of the time I had access to a computer just making shit in Line Rider. And, you know, I made stuff like I saw in that Unconed video, I guess. I mean, that was what I was into, just making kind of adventures. I mean, I did come across some of the weird and wacky stuff. For example, that I've been showing you, like stuff like this that I have now, like 10 years later, kind of made. But yeah, you know, initially I was just making stuff like that. I did actually see a couple of videos showcasing some of the like weird quirk techniques, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, is this the same game? It's crazy. I tried it out like a little bit myself, and I think the best I managed was like a free frame like fling or something, just by like looking at all these videos and like trying to like guess how they made them. I don't even think there are any kind of tutorials out then. And I wasn't really aware of We Ride the Lines. I may have actually clicked on the website and then I think maybe I clicked on it, but I only used it to get to, because it has like a big symbol on it just saying play line writer. I think I only used it so I could get to that because like I would know it'd always be the same version of line writer so I could find my tracks. But I never interacted with the website in any other capacity. I was fairly antisocial kid, I guess, or pretty unaware. So yeah, that's my introduction to line writer. I just made a bunch of random stuff essentially. And yeah, I mean, once I left high school, I basically stopped really interacting with Line Rider or thinking about it for about maybe nearly 10 years. So, yes, I'm dating myself. I am currently 25. I came across Line Rider, I guess, when I was 24 or just before that point, so 23 maybe. I don't even know actually. Probably 24, 23, just before. Basically, I had sunk about 1,500 hours in a very brief amount of time into another game called Rust, which is a very different kind of online multiplayer game, very toxic. Could have been something pretty special, but ultimately just became repetitive and dull. So I burned out of this game that I spent a shitload of time on, and for some reason I just was like, "Huh, I remember Line Rider. That was pretty fun. I wonder what's going on with Line Rider these days." And I just kind of clicked onto it and kind of found some videos, I think, or I can't even remember if I saw a video or not. But I came across We Ride the Lines and made an account, and I was just looking at some of the stuff these people had made. I was like, "Huh, this is pretty cool." And then I came across Apple's tutorials, and I think that was actually the first track I ever made. I managed to make like some 20-second like piece of like generic kind of like quirky crap stuff. God knows where that track file is now. And I basically uploaded it and then made it a video and like tagged Apple in it, or I posted a comment under his video saying, "Oh, thanks, like I was able to make one from this," because I was like really appreciative of tutorials, having never been able to find any previously, and that kind of forebodes into the channel I have now. But we can get into that a little later. So yeah, like the first track I made was called Evil Beauty, which I discussed in the previous stream, talking about my tracks, which if any of you want, go back and watch that first. Feel free to rejoin us if you would like to know about that stuff first. I mean, this is just me mostly talking about my personal journey through Line Rider, I guess, more of an overview, and about the community and stuff like that. So yeah, I made that track. People encouraged me. I noticed the site was pretty quiet, and I was later found out that it was pretty much dead at that point. Back then, yeah, I mean, I then came to make a second track called Opium, which I also showcased, and for some reason that garnered a lot of responses on We Ride the Lines, which was the previous forum where people used to hang out. It still exists, and I still post tracks to it just to try and aware some of the older people and maybe like bring them across to the Discord. And that seems to have worked recently. We've had a few people come across, which is nice. And yeah, so I posted Opium there. It got quite a lot of responses. People were. It wasn't a particularly great track, but people just really wanted to encourage me. And also, like Lime Rider was pretty boring at the time. So yeah, I made a couple more tracks that were just kind of generic, I guess. Nothing like particularly special. And then one day, something came up which kind of surprised me. See, there was this two preeminent members of the Line Rider community who many who get into Line Rider will know. Rabbit Squirrel, very famous for tracks like Ruby Falls, This Will Destroy You, Celia, etc., etc., and his counterpart OTDE, who many may remember from tracks such as Dangerous Cargo, and maybe more recently you may have seen Shortcuts. But yeah, they used to host a review channel, which is now essentially defunct in their reviewing capacity, although they do top 10s at the end of the year. and have expressed that they may bring back the review channel one day. But for all intents and purposes, it is dead at the moment. So yeah, back then they would review tracks, and they, I guess, as I said, it was a very dead period in Line Rider, so they reviewed 5 of my tracks. So I basically got straight up roasted for about 40 minutes, and I was grateful for the criticism, honestly. I mean, some people take that the wrong way. Me, it's just like, huh, well, okay, I guess I'll go away and work on this. And to be honest, the first thing I made was basically a piece of crap. I think actually, to be honest, I had taken quite a break from Line Rider for almost a month at that time, just because I was getting a little bit burnt out. Because I was trying to like put too much into it, which is just something you shouldn't really try to do too much. You should just try and enjoy. But back then, I was pretty hungry. Some of the members of the Line Rider community had begun to reach out to me after I published Opium. Sheldon reached out to me, gave me his Skype number, which was pretty cool. And I hung out with him, Chuggers, and maybe Anton and Dap. I can't remember. Like briefly in the Skype calls. But yeah, I'd hang out with them a couple of times, see what they were working on. But yeah, it probably took me a while before I was more comfortable. But yeah, so that's one thing I would say is the Line Rider community is a welcoming place, and shout out to Sheldon for being that person to reach out and help a fledgling Line Rider noob. So yeah, moving on from that, I made this atrocity of a track called Turkish March, which ended up getting about 200,000 views, mostly because it rode the train of previous tracks that have become popular, like Mountain King by Doodle Chaos. Mountain King is, well, I think it has now close to or has surpassed Jagged Peak Adventure as the most popular Line Rider track of all time. I think JPA had about 11 million views, and Doodle Chaos's Mountain King, I think, has now surpassed that. So it's the most popular Line Rider track of all time. If you haven't seen it, recommend go and have a watch. It's definitely a fun little track. It shows, it shows off what Line Rider is quite nicely. It's like a quite nice introduction to Line Rider, the kind of like fun stuff you can do. And yeah, so for whatever reason, this shitty track I made, just because of the formulas, basically, it got a lot of views. And soon after I made it, I began to hate it a lot. And then I kind of fought back to all the criticisms that Rabbit and OTDE had made. I was like, I'm gonna just like try and make something that's like nice artistically and smoothly. I don't know if like those specific words were going through my head, but I kind of knew that I should just try and make something that was like much more thematic, I guess, and just more polished overall. So I set out to make a track called Flower Duet. If you want to watch it, just go on my channel, and yeah, I think it's actually in the Hanuman collection playlist, so you can watch it there. It's kind of a hidden line kind of track, and I kind of knew when I was making it, so that it would probably be liked by Rabbit and OTD, and so yeah, sorry if this sounds like I was prejudging you guys, but sure enough, Rabbit Squirrel reached out to me in a direct message on We Ride the Lines, and kind of invited me to the then it was called the Line Rider Artist Discord server, which was a semi-underground server at that point that different people were just like joining up. It was just kind of like a alternative viewpoint on Line Rider, I guess. And so there, like, I got more like creative influences, which was great. My track making began to improve. Eventually, that server kind of died, I guess, due to just it wasn't really being used the way it should have been used, and there was a bit of sabotage from some of the other members in the community. But yeah, that's one of the things that I kind of also learned about Line Rider, is that there is Line Rider Artist LRA. It's funny, right? But yeah, it's one of the things I kind of learned about Lion Rider after a while is there's like a lot of beef and old history and drama that kind of comes from all these people who are all in love with the same passion, but there aren't that many of them, and they're all been stuck together for a decade. So you know, like fights happen, you know, drama occasionally happens, but you know, we try to be mature. I mean, even in the year I've been here, I've been sucked into stuff every now and then. But yeah, like we've had some pretty good peaceful times, honestly, since the last incident arose. But yeah, so that server ended up closing down. Right around that time, I was going through some tough stuff mentally in a relationship I was in, and I ended up making a couple of tracks that were pretty meaningful to me. So First Steps was kind of a failed attempt to show my feelings. I think like the only I kind of what the track was actually supposed to be about was like, to be honest, like it didn't start out as being an expression of my feelings, but it ended with being an expression of my feelings. That's why the first half of the track is kind of just normal ish, I guess. And then like as I kind of think about that theme more, like it kind of gets better and better. So the track is supposed to be about my experience of going into a relationship. So it kind of starts as a hey, what's up, Wizzy? It kind of starts as a fairly just mundane kind of thing, and then it seems to kind of go down and down. There's a point in the track where the music becomes really tenuous and Bosch just starts falling. And that's kind of like, to me, is the symbolism of taking that first step, like trying to like initiate that relationship in that case. And then eventually Bosch is caught in the fling, in this kind of unlikely, chaotic thing. And he starts going back up as the music rises. And that was kind of more like what love was like to me, like a chaotic kind of crazy feeling that kind of takes over you. It's a little bit of a addicting thing in a way, and that's kind of symbolized in the track, I guess. There's a point where we have Bosch and the track, and eventually the track starts going one way, but Bosch keeps trying to go upwards, and eventually there's nothing to support him anymore, so he comes crashing down. And that was pretty much kind of a euphemism for what was happening to me at the time in my previous relationship. So yeah, there was that, and then there was also Mountains, which I should also say First Steps. I used the music from Interstellar, which I absolutely adore. Actually, for three tracks, although one of them was unreleased because I just gave up on it, it became a mess. But yeah, the other one I released was Mountains for the mountain scene in Interstellar, which is an awesome scene. Has like the clock ticking and like the tension rising, stuff like that. That was a track I was really proud of because it just kind of was pretty unique. It was kind of like more of a me-ish thing to make, I guess. And I just liked the way all the pressuring worked. I think like the best part of it really is the beginning and the spiral. Like after that, it's just like I kind of ran out of ideas a little bit. But yeah, that track took a pretty long time to make as well. But I was pretty pleased with the outcome for that. And yeah, like I should also say, like around this time, I believe was when I started to, because one of the things I really wanted in Line Rider was more tutorials, more accessibility, and more Line Rider culture. Because the guys I've mentioned before, Rabbit Squirrel and OTDE, they stopped creating these Line Rider reviews, which I loved watching and many others do and have done. So after a while, I mean, alongside working on this, I was making some of the tracks I've talked about in my previous track talks, and I also tried to reinvigorate the old LRA Line Red Artist server, which I ran for about, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months. Eventually, I closed it because it was dying, and some of the reasons I was hosting it for was basically to create a safe space for certain people, and then like they didn't really like the server because I changed it from their vision, so they didn't really use it anyway. And then there was some drama, and I just kind of closed it as a protest at the time in a response to that. So yeah, like I ran my own server, and off the back of that, the admin of the Line Rider Reddit and the Line Rider Discord, Kevin's Evans, invited me to become staff on the main Line Rider Discord. So I got staff or the administrative privilege on there. I then also went on to in cooperation with another guy called Minor Legend, who is now kind of banished from the community, create a third Discord server, which was basically dedicated to Line Rider collaborations. Unfortunately, we had some unexpected drama with Minor. It turned out the guy was like, I don't know how old he was, but he was like super racist and like homophobic and anti a lot of things and stuff like that. So after a lot of time of talking to the guy, eventually he like flamed the server and had his friends like raid it and all this like weird stuff. So we basically ended up starting that afresh, and we had to use a security system to like keep him out, which sounds pretty pathetic, really. We're talking about Line Rider, but you know, like these people's grudges run deep, man. So yeah, I'm also an admin on that server. The current version of Line Rider collaboration server is owned by not Rabbit Squirrel, sorry, Arglen, and that is a great server that's up and going to this day. Yeah, Minor, I guess if any of you knew him before, is banned basically from everywhere for being toxic. So yeah, I am admin on all the current Line Rider discords that the community run. And yeah, like I just kind of wanted to put a lot into Line Rider, I guess, because it gave me a lot in return. Like I met a lot of good people through Line Rider, which is something that's not always that easy to do. You know, find people with the same passions as you, which is great. So yeah, thanks to all the regulars in the Discord. Thanks to you guys in the comments. Good to have known you. And yeah, so I always wanted to create more of a framework for Line Rider, because when I came in, there wasn't that much information, and I really wanted to make it accessible. So me and Anton, who had previously constructed a kind of Twitch version of the tutorials for Rabbit Squirrel to try and teach them some of the techniques, decided he could help me, and we made quite a few tutorials together. I've also made some with Aether Gaming, Sheldon, I believe, as well. Some of the tutorials were added by other people. Kevin's Evans made a good basic singularity tutorial, which pretty much tells you how to make a very basic singularity. Although, problem with making tutorials is you always want to replace them once you've made them, because you're like, oh, I could make this shorter and like slightly better, but I'm trying to keep myself from not doing that at the moment. So yeah, I made them with Arglen. Arglen also posted some great tutorials for me on stuff like smooth curves, which is something I used to my advantage when making Centrism, which I did a track talk on earlier. So yeah, I made a lot of tutorials, and then we have this, which is what I basically came up with to replace the lack of Line Rider content that we were used to, I guess, from Rabbit and OTDE. And Rabbit seemed pretty behind it when I proposed the idea to them. So yeah, I started by interviewing people about their tracks, and then if they were interested, I would do this section as well, which is called Behind the Lines. I've kind of stayed away from Behind the Lines recently, probably just because if they're like some of the older guys coming back in, I probably wouldn't necessarily delve into their past, because, you know, like some of them still have their old grudges, or maybe you're just bringing up, you know, like bad juju or whatever, or old drama. But there's there's a good number of episodes of Behind the Lines, and you know, to anyone out there watching this, if you want to do an episode like this, hit me up, and yeah, we'll make it happen. So yeah, for me, I kept on making tracks. I was making a lot of synced tracks at the time, like stuff like I Don't Fucking Care was one track. Flying High was another. The Middle, and oh god, Nothing to Lose, which was also synced. I got to a point. Eventually, I was making a really long track called The Snowman, which I talked about earlier in talking about my tracks, which is the track talk I did on some of my tracks. If you want to watch that, it's pretty long. Yeah, grudges from 7 years ago. They still exist, my dude. Believe it. But yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, I got to a certain point in the Snowman, and I just decided I could not really continue with the way I was making tracks because it was just like killing Line Rider for me. So I kind of just went with a style that was more just doing, like whatever the hell I felt like, basically. And it definitely like took a turn on my channel because for a Line Rider channel, I've gained a fair amount of subscribers in about a year. And because if you don't produce that content as often and as regularly, you definitely start to slip. But yeah, like it was much better fit for me to just do what made me happy, really. So I've been doing that for the last couple of tracks. I've really been loving the tracks I've been making. Centrism, the most recent one. Well, actually, I'll talk about some of the others, I guess. I made Chrono Jam, which was basically to showcase a new technique I discovered. I've actually discovered, I guess, about 3 new techniques for Line Rider. One is called a Hanuman. It's just like a weird... I don't even know if it's a technique, but it's easier to say Hanuman than like multi-lining the nose backwards and forwards every other frame really, really fast so it vibrates. So yeah, I named it after myself, which some people take issue with. I mean, what can I say, man? My ego knows no bounds. When I die, I want people to remember, oh, that was the guy, he made the Hanuman. Yeah, I remember that guy. What a hero. Yeah, so I made that. I also made 2 new forms of the cranial position, one being a cranoman, where it's the same as the default position, except both of the hands point behind and at air times. And I also made an even stupider named one. I called it the unicornual because it's kind of like, imagine Bosch's body like this on the back of a sled, so his butt's like overhanging, and then his head's here, and then his hand sticks straight out of his head, so it looks like kind of like a unicorn, I guess. So yeah, I made that of a unicornual. So in Chrono Jam, I was pretty hyped, I guess, that I made this new random technique, so I made a track about it. Or I made it in the track at some point. I can't even remember what I was doing, but it was interesting. And yeah, I published that, and it was different. Like the way I made the track was different. I no longer really was paying as much attention to sync. I was just having fun. I just kind of made the music fit the theme because it was more freeing, and I felt like I was having more fun doing it. Because one of the things for me is if I don't really like enjoy what I'm doing, I just will never ever do it. So I had to make it fun. I had to make it attainable, and that worked for me. It definitely got a lot less views, but like who cares, man? Like let the people come if they like what you do. That's my philosophy anyway. So yeah, after that I moved on to Bacon, which was I think I flipped it up earlier. Yeah, this crazy monstrosity. Yeah, so I kind of have a bit of an affinity for Singularity. I think this basically started out, I got hold of this track, and I basically was like, oh, this is all Singularity track. I want to like improve my ability to make singularities. So I ended up making about 400 more in addition to all these ones added by Dap and Anton. There's a few of them also in there. That's also Anton. There's a bit of Anton in the middle too. And yeah, I just made more and more like absurd stuff, I guess, because I just found it fun. And yeah, after that track, I moved on to Push It to the Limit, which was an idea I had just to have like more kind of animated scenery and just a more like interesting, just a more like interesting form of Line Rider track. Because one of the things I kind of felt about that year, I guess, or the year before, was up until Rabbit Squirrel released Sealy, I was starting to feel like we're in the year of the manual, and there are a lot of amazing manual tracks for sure. But there's also a lot of what we called, I guess, people that kind of saw Mountain King and then they just literally cloned the track and remade it themselves. And it's like, sure, like do whatever you want to do, but it's also nice to just see people do something. Like take an idea from that and then apply it to your own track. Don't literally just like copy what someone did. Like I was seeing a lot of tracks like that, and it was starting to like kill my Land Rider enthusiasm. So yeah, like tracks like Sealy were great because that kind of really broke the mold. And then yeah, and it wasn't just like tracks like Doodle Chaos. Is there were people that were just getting stuck in their own. It wasn't just like new people coming in. It was a lot of the creators we had in the community were kind of getting a little pigeonholed in their own styles. And then yeah, as I said, like Sealy broke the mold, and then one of the reasons I wanted to make Push It to the Limit was just to kind of break that the year of Mountain King. uh, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to break the mold a bit, do something unique, maybe hopefully inspire some people to like do something different with Lion Rider. And yeah, I made that, and then the most recent track I made was Centrism. And Centrism is kind of like a culmination of all of my tracks in a way. It has a lot of elements from a lot of different stuff. Like I always like to like from the beginning, I guess. Like I'd like to have not all my tracks do, but a lot of my best tracks have a certain theme, and then you kind of build the track around that, and that's always been a kind of nice touch. So Centrism kind of did that. It took a lot of the elements of previous tracks and kind of like put them into one, and it turned out into a pretty well packaged product. Like it's not perfect. It could like you could argue that like certain aspects of it could be more smooth, or maybe you could continue with certain techniques or whatever. But like for me, like it's what I wanted it to be. So like I'm pretty happy with it personally. And yeah, that's pretty much where I am with Line Rider at the moment. I'm loving Line Rider. Like you put in as much as you put into this community, you'll get out. People say there's a steep learning curve in Line Rider. I mean, I started out learning from the tutorials. I've only been doing it for like a year or so, I guess, and now I'm making the tutorials. So like nothing I can't do. So anyone watching this and you want to get into Line Rider, just get into it, man. Just do it at your own pace. We have a friendly community. It's something I always strive to achieve is more Line Rider interconnectivity, which is one of the issues with this community, which you might realize if you get further into it, is that it's kind of split. There's I mean, I would prefer not to use the word split, but there is a split between the more so-called artistic people, I guess, and then everyone else. There's like I guess we have a subsect of Line Rider that likes to focus on the artistic side of Line Rider, and they produce great tracks. And then there's everyone else, and we also produce great tracks. My goal, I guess, is to like unite people from both sides, because like there are still age-old grudges, and there's a lot of pain that people don't want to ever have to really face if they can avoid it, which I understand. But that's my goal, is to try and heal the Line Rider community. It may be too much of an ambitious goal, but that's kind of where I am at the moment. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'll hang out for a couple of minutes and answer any questions you may have. How many people we got watching? Oh, we got 7 again. Sweet. Make an all green track. There was nothing to learn when I started playing Line Rider. Yeah, Wizzy, I was in the. There's nothing to learn. Yeah, when I started playing, I guess. Well, actually, no. There were like Gravity Well tracks and stuff, but I had no idea how those worked. I've always been more into the artistic side of Line Rider. Yeah, for sure, dude. I would say for me, one of the reasons I made Centrism is because I kind of consider myself to be I always return to a certain point. I take a lot from both sides. So I like to use a lot of techniques, but I also like to keep stuff like thematic. I'm not really like a great artist or anything, but I like to have like a certain theme or narrative going through my tracks. So that's why I like the track Centrism, and that's why I named it that, because that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of who I am in the community. I'm kind of like I don't want to say something like really like arrogant, like, oh, I'm the central hub of Line Rider, but like like I try and keep on everyone's, I try and like stay friendly with everyone, like look at every approach of Line Rider if I can possibly. But yeah, there is definitely that split. I would prefer if people didn't really categorize themselves, and to be honest, I think most of us do not categorize ourselves, which is great. I mean, I hate to say it, but it is kind of people who are more categorized in terms of Line Rider are the people with the more artistic lens, and that's fine. Then hopefully we can break down that barrier once again. Make that face again. What face? Am I sort of both then? I make tracks. Wait, I make bad tracks. Never mind. What the fuck? Which one? Like this one? Yes, that was great. What? Yeah, I can make some faces. Lol. So yeah, we've got Yoshim and Wizzy in the chat. There's at least four other people watching this. So if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them, because I'm probably going to drop out the stream soon. I've been talking for, how long have I been talking for? 36 minutes. Oh, 2 hours before that as well. Hey, Ibai, what's up, bro? Yeah, so when you said that you are the Line Rider Hub, yeah, I can't even remember that face, bro. You have to just like go through the stream afterwards and just like screenshot it, my dude. So, any questions, yo? You made the Woody Woodpecker noise. Oh yeah. I guess that's the most interesting part of the stream, my facial expressions. Yeah, so I guess if there are not any more questions, but this was cool to listen to. Hey, yeah, no worries, bro. I can sit here and talk forever. Get kind of used to it when you run an interview show. But yeah, other people that are on the rise in Line Rider, Arglind, one of those guys who's really on top of his shit, has seen his channel rise to surpass mine. He's on his way to 700 subs. So congrats, go subscribe to Arglind, go subscribe to everyone. If you want to see a list of all the current Line Rider creators, we have a featured channel in the Line Rider collaboration server, which is linked in the description. You can go there. We have a big old window. You can see all the guys, girls, they, them, whoever. You can go check them everyone out. What's your favorite Tech Dog track? To be honest, I never really watched that much Tech Dog, or I didn't even know who he was, and I watched his tracks when I was younger. I'd probably say Monumental, and the only reason I would say Monumental is go to Reddit Collab 3 and go and check out mine and Sheldon's parts, and you'll see why Monumental is my favorite track. This is cool, isn't it? Yep. All right. So I'm probably going to end the stream here, guys. This has been fun. And yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to DM me or hit me up in the Line Rider Discord, which is also linked below. Thank you all. Have a great day. And this is me signing out. See ya.